So crypto is on a surge right now as Bitcoin is close to all-time highs, but I'm going to go ahead and break down what I think happens next, and I'll talk about altcoins as well. A few that you want to keep an eye on because I think that these will have the best returns possible here in the coming months, and we all are here to make as much money as possible in crypto. So as always, nothing is financial advice. I'll go ahead and break down the market, and if you've not yet subscribed, you want to make sure to do so below because each and every week I break down the crypto market. I've been a little bit busy, but the good news is I do have some exciting stuff to talk about. I'm going to go ahead and share that at the end of the video. You don't want to miss it because it involves also with free giveaways of Bitcoin. So if you want to hear about that, make sure that you watch the video. But if you've not yet subscribed, make sure to do that. Just click the button there on the left under Rager Crypto, and I will be giving more updates as we know as the market trends up. Now, currently, Bitcoin has been on an uptrend, and I did leave a new video over the past week, and I did talk about going back to that page, my 2025 crypto strategy, how I think the market's going to play out in the coming months and to try to make as much money as possible. If you've not yet watched that video, you might want to watch that. But within that, I did talk about Bitcoin specifically breaking down into this range of around $94,000 to $97,000. Now, currently where we're at right now, at least over the past week, it doesn't look like that's going to happen, but it's still early. And to go ahead and break that down, many people thought that we were going to break above this 4-hour level right here and then go to new all-time highs up to over $112,000 to $113,000. That have yet to happen. And a big reason for that is because of the news that's out. And I'll go ahead and talk about that in a minute. But just understand that during the summertime, sell in May and go away, come back after Labor Day is definitely true. And it could be playing true again, because if you zoom in and look at this 4-hour chart, what you're going to notice is that, again, price is rejecting off this level. And it's a very good scenario or likely scenario that Bitcoin actually makes its way back down to that 106 to 104 area. And so I've got it marked out right here. I do believe that these areas, as far as this range right here, lots of lines here, but just know that this area right here is probably a good area where Bitcoin can come back down, bounce, make a higher low, and then hopefully make an uptrend right here. Notice that? So hopefully it can continue on this uptrend by doing that. And you need to be patient because next week is FOMC. And so the Federal Reserve will talk about cutting rates in the United States. And I don't think that's going to happen. And it's pretty much a zero chance that's going to happen, more than likely. And we'll talk about why that is as we go ahead and look at the CPI numbers. So if you zoom in and if you can see that, basically what we had today is that we had CPI, our core inflation, and the inflation rose to 2.4%. Now, it's below expectations of 2.5%, which you think, oh, that's great. Again, core CPI 2.8, expectations 2.9. And for the first time since January 2025, though, headline CPI inflation is back. Its odds of the Fed cutting rates next week are down to zero, as I just said. And this is what you want to know, because after that response, President Trump then tweeted out, CPI just out, great numbers. Fed should lower 1 full point. Would pay much less interest on debt coming due. President Trump wants to make sure that those numbers are down because as they refinance those interest rates for the American government, they want the best rate possible. But at the moment, we do not think that the Federal Reserve is going to do that. And typically when that happens, when they do reduce those rates, we do see the market pump in reaction. So do not expect for rates to be cut, because this is the key reason right here. And again, if you can zoom in and read this, basically, even though CPI or inflation overall was lower, inflation is still much higher in many basic necessities. And you can go through there: natural gas, right? Car insurance, meat and eggs, and food in general, car repairs, homeowner inflation. You have to be kidding me. So many people are waiting for the real estate market to go down in prices, and it just doesn't seem to be getting down enough. I've said many times before, I'm always looking at the market to see whether I want to invest in something or buy something. And I'm like, prices are about 25% too high for me right now, is what I always say. And even with that, the mortgage would be even higher because of the interest rates on those mortgages would be high as well. So rent inflation, hospital services, and really everything is just high. And it says even though overall inflation rate has dropped, prices for many necessities are still going up rapidly, and people are sick of inflation in general. And that's true. Looking at that face to face is you have to just understand that prices continue to go up. And because of that, it's very unlikely the Federal Reserve is going to reduce those rates or have a rate cut. And that is not going to positively have an income on the market. And so as we go into late June, into July as well, it's likely that we don't have any rate cuts in July. August, you don't have any rate cuts, not until September. So it's likely not until September until we get rate cuts. So as I said in my last video, a lot of people watched that and were like, oh, Josh Rager, he's wrong because he said that we could potentially go back down under 100K. The summer's a long time, guys. The summer is a long time. We're not going to have these rate cuts. And basically in the summertime, markets are a bit more liquid. There's a real possibility that we could chop, as I said. Now, I'm not bearish whatsoever. If we go back to that Bitcoin price chart, I've got all this slop right here, but basically what I'm getting to is really it breaks down into Bitcoin is just really in one big large range. Breaking that down right here, we can basically go ahead and put some new white lines and maybe move this up and just say, look, maybe price, if anything, what price ends up doing this summer is this ends up ranging back and forth between 100 and 112K, between 100K and all-time highs. And it may even get down here in the 96 to 97K range. But the whole point being is that I'm not necessarily expecting new highs to hit until the markets show some strength, specifically the stock market, which again, it's been doing good overall, but we do understand that we're going into summertime and usually things just chop up. And with the stock market, it's had a great V bottom. But again, are we going to get to where this is resistance? Because it's been up only since April. And, you have something called mean reversion. So as you look at the daily chart right here, all of these moving averages, very oftentimes what you end up seeing is price come back down to these moving averages and then continue on back up. And of course, this is a lagging indicator. So this could also take a few weeks to play out. So what I'm just trying to say is I don't necessarily think that we're going to just dump way back down here for the stock market. I think the low is in the same way with Bitcoin. There's no way Bitcoin is heading back down to 70K down here. But I do think that you have to be very patient in the summertime, as we've seen historically. Bitcoin chop, go sideways, potentially get back down to those mid 90K range. And as you've seen, it's rejecting off this 4-hour resistance level. And if anything, it's just a lower high actually right now. So there's a real possibility that we at least hit back down to 104 to 106K. Yes, I will bid there. And so if price does get into this area for Bitcoin, certainly I'm going to bid in that area because I think that this could be, again, another higher low on the day trend, and then can move hopefully move back up. So we'll see. I'm just saying you have to be patient with it. If anything, you want to be in spot Bitcoin now. You want to accumulate under 100K. And if you're not in there, and if you're dollar cost average, just what I always tell people is to dollar cost average on dips. If you see a 5 to 10% dip, perfect opportunity to dollar cost average in, because as we know, Bitcoin is a long-term hold for most people. I probably wouldn't be trading it, especially because most people aren't successful trading. But what I would do is it is a hedge against the dollar, a hedge against the financial system. And so again, any dip down here, 104 to 106, great opportunity. Now, as far as altcoins, let's go ahead and move to altcoins right now, because knowing that Bitcoin can hit 104 to 106, and it's probably going to go sideways for the next few weeks. That's what I'm getting to for Bitcoin. Ethereum has bounced. Now, you can't see this. Let me go ahead and move this up. I know my face is in the way. But if I go ahead and show you this chart, overall, this is Ethereum, Bitcoin. And this is comparing Ethereum price to Bitcoin. And the red down, this downtrend means that Ethereum has been weak against Bitcoin for the past few years. And we have recently in April finally see Ethereum hit off a long-term resistance on the weekly chart, bounced, and has since actually been going up. So for the first time in a long time, we're seeing Ethereum bounce, and we haven't seen something like this probably since early 2024, but it just kept going back down afterwards. So a lot of people are questioning right now, is this the time for Ethereum to break out? And if Ethereum breaks out, typically what that leads to is a rotation to other altcoins. And so anytime Ethereum will break out, and again, we saw that during other quote alt seasons, during other bull markets in crypto, but it tends to be a very good thing when Ethereum breaks out. And if it can do that, it's probably going to lead to a rotation in other altcoins to make some good money this summer. So there's always outliers. And just because I say Bitcoin is going to go sideways, or Bitcoin could go to 104 down to 100K, doesn't mean I'm bearish overall in the market. It's just chopping sideways. But the good news is that when Bitcoin chops sideways, altcoins tend to do really well in that chop, depending if it's a downtrend. But we've seen right now, Bitcoin has been on an uptrend chop range. Yes, overall, if we can see another confluence with that, is if we could see this Bitcoin dominance continue to drop. So overall, in the past couple of days, we've seen that Bitcoin dominance has dropped. Okay. Now it dropped back in early May. It's dropped recently. And this recent drop right here is where we actually saw Ethereum break out and has performed pretty well over the past 3 or 4 days. Okay. This is a daily chart. So 1, 2, 3, 4. But again, the issue with Ethereum, and I've actually had this white line on this Ethereum chart for a long time. I've actually had it since down here. And I said, look, I said this in other videos, if Ethereum breaks out, expect it to come up to this range around 27 to 2800 to hit that range and then reject off that. And look what's happening right now. We've got this red candle right here that has wicked up above the previous range. And so people tend to also call this a swing failure pattern, where price will break out, get people off sides, and they'll start buying once it breaks out, and then price will dump. And a lot of times too, for traders, they tend to long those areas, which is a bad idea. You want a long pullback, so you don't want a long pumps. Breakout traders will do that. Some are really good at that, but most people aren't very good at trading breakouts. The bottom line is we've got this red doji right here. So very big opportunity. If Ethereum does break back down, expect it to break back down in the $2,400 to $2,600 range. A couple $100 down would probably be a good buying opportunity as long as it can hold this range right here. But that was to be expected. This is not a shocker if Ethereum does pull back right here, because over the past 5 days, it's done well. And since early May, it's went from $1,700 to $2,800. So it's $1,000 higher than what it was. It's up quite a bit over the past month. So it needs a little bit of a cool down. It had some chop right there. If Ethereum can break above 2850 here, expect it to probably move up to this area around 32 to 3300. Okay. So after it breaks $3,000, that's a psychological number where people tend to jump in a little bit. Imagine that, right? Those psychological numbers. But bottom line, Ethereum has looked pretty good. And overall, too, understand that the volume has been pretty crazy. If you can zoom in here, basically what it says is that over the past day, the total trading volume for ETH contracts across the network exceeded $111 billion. So it surpassed Bitcoin contract trading volume of 87 billion. Basically, it's the highest contract trading volume. People are buying and trading Ethereum right now. So that could be basically a very good thing for the crypto market, specifically not Bitcoin, those are long-term hold, but for altcoins. And so you want to also look at those altcoins that have been showing strength, that has attention. And so a lot of altcoins is an attention game. And so when I moved to those, I wanted to tell you about things that I'm watching now, specifically altcoins. And you saw this spike in price here, and let's all laugh about it, but this is Fartcoin, okay? So as far as Fartcoin goes, what we've seen with Fartcoin here is that we saw a spike in price, and that was a Coinbase listing, okay? So that Coinbase listing caused the price to spike. The good news is it's still hanging on around these lower time frame moving averages. It's still technically in an uptrend here. If I go to the 4-hour chart, we had a pullback here. But if it were to break down, again, it's probably going to break down about $1.20-ish, something like that. Probably no greater than $1.17. So to mark those off, if we end up seeing some type of breakdown pattern here, expect it to probably not go lower than 117. Okay. So buy the dip opportunity for sure. Are you going to necessarily buy Fartcoin right now? People who've been holding Fartcoin for a long time are going to tell you, yeah, buy it right now. It's a great opportunity. But again, a lot of people have been in it since under $1. So naturally they want to continue to take exit liquidity here. But as any good trader, buying down here, selling up here is the answer. And a lot of people are going to probably be taking profit off that Coinbase candle. But we'll see. We'll see if there's continuous hype. But overall, I'm seeing here in the next 3 months, though, I do Fartcoin. So I'm saying I think dip opportunities are fantastic for this. And so if Bitcoin does pull back initially, before it ranges and chops a little bit, when it first pulled back, altcoins dump with it. And then people realize that, oh, Bitcoin is actually holding, it's actually not going to nuke back down to 70. It's just going to range here in 104 to 106K. So let's put our money into some other things. Okay. And so Ethereum starts to pump, and then other things start to pump, other majors, especially those majors that have a lot of attention. Fartcoin is one. So buying those buy the dip opportunities on that. Hype is the other one. Now, Hype is a little harder to find. Hyperliquid, you can actually trade on Hyperliquid DEX. All you need is an email. You don't even need a wallet, crypto wallet, but it is a little bit harder to trade or find because, again, Hyperliquid is a DEX that is a competitor to these centralized exchanges like Binance and Kraken and like Coinbase. And so they're not always going to want to actually have Hype token out, because if so, then again, having your competitor on your exchange is just going to lead to more volume and more success overall for that token. So I don't necessarily know if we'll see that, but Hype has been doing phenomenal. Okay. And this not only is Hype a decentralized exchange, but it's also an L1. So it's a chain. And so a lot of people are comparing it to Ethereum and Solana and having its own DEX on top of a chain. And so, again, there's a lot of hype around it. They've done really well with the tokenomics. They've airdropped a lot of tokens. There's a lot of reasons to like Hype, is what I'm saying, and Hyperliquid. So with that said, I do like Hyperliquid, and it's similar to Fartcoin. We had a run up from $34 up to $44, and it's having a pullback right now. Don't be shocked if price goes from $43 back down here to, say, $36 to $38. Okay, don't be shocked by that. And again, whenever you see these opportunities for these dips, that's certainly a great time to potentially buy if you see continuation to the upside, okay? But so far, Hype's doing pretty good. And it's not a parabola or anything like that, but understand that it's in an uptrend. Hype looks good. Hyperliquid and Fartcoin are probably two of the most popular coins that are considered to be majors in the top 100, the top 50. And if you're going to trade, you want things that have a lot of attention. You want things that a lot of people on social are talking about. And Hype and Fartcoin are specifically two of those things that have that attention, that have that hype, that have the volume and popularity, and they're probably not going anywhere this year. So buying the dip opportunities on all things don't always work, but specifically on these two coins, I think as a strategy for me, I think that is going to work pretty well in the future as Bitcoin hits all new all-time highs. Now, Avalanche is another one that I've talked about. The chart doesn't look as good. This is the zoomed out chart on the weekly. But the important thing to look at Avalanche is just looking at it and saying, look, we're trying to put in higher lows on the weekly. That's the whole point, is to zoom out to see what that structure looks like. If the weekly looked really bad, if it was like in a big downtrend like this, I don't care what the daily and the 4-hour chart looks like, but I do know that the weekly looks pretty good. Okay. And here's the daily. And again, the daily is looking okay. If it can sustain again above $20, I think, sorry, you guys can't see that because I need to move that up. But overall, if it sustains this area and this level of 20, I'm a fan. And so I think the thing about Avalanche is that it tends to have more partnerships with real companies than a lot of the other major chains. And it's been very successful with gaming. There's a lot of good things about AVIX. It just doesn't have the same hype as, say, Solana, as Hyperliquid, some of these other L1s. But I do Avalanche as one of these types of trades to take before everyone is talking about it. My prediction is that Avalanche will have a short run that's a big pump, basically, over the course of the next year. Now, I can't time it exactly, but I do think that Avalanche is one of these because, again, some things, reasons I like it is that it is a major L1 chain that has involvement with a lot of companies. The market cap is relatively not as big as some of these bigger chains like Solana and Ethereum. So there's upside there. The chart looks good. It's yet to hit all-time highs, even though Solana broke its all-time high not too long ago. It's really far away from that. Not saying it's going to hit 150 again, but overall, I think that there's a real possibility, even if it hits 2 to 3x from here, it's a great possibility for a $21 AVIX chain. With this token, if Ethereum is going to hit brand new all-time highs on 2x, I guarantee that Avalanche is probably going to hit multiples of that. Okay, so overall, a dark horse, something that a lot of people aren't talking about, is Avalanche. I like that as an altcoin play, along with Hyperliquid with Fartcoin, those other popular coins. The other thing I talk about, Solana overall, I've got some things marked on here, but basically this is the weekly chart and it's holding pretty well. This weekly structure, last week's candle into this previous zone got bought up, it pushed up, and now it's holding this area of 150. And so overall, it looks good. It's currently at around 160. And so as long as it can hold this area and continue to put in a higher low again, yet on the weekly, that's what I'm looking for overall. Even here on the daily chart, it's continued to hold this zone, and that's what you want to see. So if that can continue to hold, I think that we'll move back above $185. For right now, take it day by day with these altcoins because, again, if Bitcoin does decide to break down here to 104 to 106, a lot of these altcoins, that's where you're going to get your dip at. You're going to get your dip when Bitcoin initially reacts and dumps. And what you want to do is you want to see the reaction to altcoins. What altcoins are actually holding well during the Bitcoin dump? And if it's Fartcoin, Hyperliquid, AVIX, Solana, which one of these are actually bouncing harder and better? That's the ones that you actually want to get into, and that's your buying opportunities for those altcoins during a pullback. But it's to be expected that more than likely we'll get some type of pullback, especially based off this current price action right here with Bitcoin. See how it's rejected off here like 3 times, and it had that final wick, and now it's coming back down. So I wouldn't be shocked, again, if it came back down to this 106 area, and if it does, that could give us some pretty good buying opportunities for here in the coming weeks for altcoins. So that's what I want you to look out for, and that is typically how you make the most money in crypto, is watching for those Bitcoin pullbacks, and then slowly DCA, buying, dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin, as well as trading and buying some of these really hyped up major coins that balance well and hold well against Bitcoin pullbacks during those dips. And then as they then dip down and then pump back up, that's when you take some profits on those things. So with that said, that's it for me today. I just wanted to go ahead and break down the market, what I was looking at for Bitcoin overall. Again, the ranges that I'm looking at, what I expect to happen here in the coming days to weeks. CPI is likely going to help the market pull back a little bit, but I don't expect any fireworks at all because the Fed is not going to cut rates anytime soon. And when you're looking at overall altcoin season, watch that Bitcoin dominance chart. Can it show a dip in that? If it does, it's showing that money can rotate in altcoins. And if Ethereum and Solana and some of these other altcoins charts against Bitcoin, if those show strength, then it's very likely that altcoins are going to have a bit of a run. And the only final thing that I wanted to talk about is that I've never done this before, but it's very likely that I'm going to do this here in the coming weeks, is to actually start having live streams overall. No, I've never done that before, but I think that when it comes to having people get the most out of anything, sometimes those live streams are the best. And the fun thing about live streams too is that you can actually have giveaways. And so for me to actually take part in giveaways week to people who are listening, asking questions, we just talk about the market. And we can also not only get into the majors like Bitcoin, but then we can also go into those on-chain assets, those on-chain smaller cap coins that are considered to be higher risk, but they also tend to have the higher returns. And so that's where a lot of the money is made in altcoin and crypto bull markets. And so be on the lookout for that. I'll talk more about that, but hopefully we can have those live streams here in the coming future, here in the next few weeks. I think I'll start to work on that slowly, and then we'll add to that and then have a few of those a week. And then on top of that, I'll have evergreen videos. And that way I can just do market updates live. I don't have to make videos recorded like this to have market updates unless for some reason I'm busy and I can't do a live stream. And then I can create content on top of that with tips and strategies that you can use to be successful in the crypto market. So with that said, guys, I hope that this video was helpful. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't. Share it with a friend if you feel like it's helpful. And with that said, you guys trade safe. Have a great day, and I will see you on the next one.